before he can open the door, Kingpin's voice tells him, there is no way that you're going to leave here alive.
Bro really has no neck. It's just head, shoulders, knees, and toes, bro. Literally.
Peter stops.
What's up, Spider Society? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out Ultimate Spider-Man. Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. I'm excited to see this after where we left off. If we haven't seen it, check out my other video. Make sure to leave a like and say, I'm here. And yeah, Spider Society, let's check out this new video. 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome to the Ultimate Universe, which has been destroyed in the current Marvel timeline. But what about the best stories within it? The stories of Ultimate Spider-Man. This is our continued Saturday morning series following the adventures of Ultimate Spider-Man with Volume 2. All alterations to the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Enjoy the recap read dramatically to you. Our story begins as a man stands over a group of security guards telling them that he's...
Who is this guy supposed to be? Is this the ventilator? He got for weapons on his hands. Come on now.
pretty sure he didn't get paid enough to take another hit, so they should probably just give him the money. Panicking, one of the guards tells him, just take the money, take whatever you want. And our mysterious man...
I don't know what them weapons do, bro, but ain't no reason for...
tells him, no, I want you to crawl and bring it to me. And then a voice tells him, you're so... Peter swings by punching the man, asking, who are you supposed to be? The vibrator? The man lifts his arms up to try and shock Peter, but as he does, Peter whips out his web onto the man's device and he ends up shocking him. The security guards get up and Peter asks if they're okay. They may want to call but one of the guards stops him, assuming he's also a criminal. Just take the money! Confused, Peter tells them, what? No, just call the cops, will you? The next day at school, Peter overhears some of the students talking about Spider-Man showing up in Brooklyn. One of them mentions that the paper was offering money for pictures of Spider-Man, which gives Peter an idea. So after school, he heads home and sets his camera up to begin taking photos. And as he does, he asks himself if he's really doing this. He really needs money, but this is a bit much. The next day, J. Jonah Jameson is shouting to everyone that he doesn't care what they want, he wants pictures of Spider-Man. And that's when he meets Peter Parker holding out a picture of Spider-Man. Everyone stops to look and Jonah takes the stack, asking, where in good God's green earth did you get these? Peter tells him, I called in a little while ago about...
Ryan Otley, did you get inspiration from him? Because these are the same two panels. Are you pulling a... Invincible right now? Come on now. These are the same panels.
About them. I got them when Spider-Man came to my school. Jonah looks at them and asks, did you take these pictures? And Peter tells him, yeah. So he starts sifting through all the photos, telling him, each one of these is...
Bro looks like Wolverine in this image. Bro looks like Wolverine with a big ass forehead. Tell me I'm lying. Let me know in the comments.
Is crap.
And bro looks like Doctor Strange in this image.
From the bunch, there is one that he pulls out. Jonah eyeballs Peter up and down and he says, old are you? I'm 16, sort of. And Jonah tells him, fine, I'll give you 50 for it. But before Peter can ask anything, Betty Brant begins to scream at her computer, shouting that she will light this whole place on fire. Jonah asks her what's wrong, and Betty tells him that she's an associate book editor, not a web designer, and she can't get this thing to work. It constantly freezes. Peter looks down at the screen and tells them that he sees the problem, and with a few clicks, he clears out the script error. Jonah begins signing over the payment of the pictures and asks Peter again, how old are you? You go to school or something? You need a job? After accepting the job, Peter heads home for the night, and as he sleeps, he begins to have the same nightmare that's been haunting him ever since Uncle Ben's death. He wakes up screaming that he couldn't stop it. He just couldn't stop it. So the next day...
Sounds like a traumatic response, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's probably, he has trauma and PTSD from the incident. And now he over analyzes the term, with great power comes great responsibility. And now that's more of a trauma response. So he feels responsible for any crime that goes on into the city because of his relative closeness towards the crime that happened to his family. So now he's going to go into this unhealthy cycle of trying to save everyone when he can't and is unreasonable. So, yeah.
Uncle Ben's death. He wakes up screaming that he couldn't stop it. He just couldn't stop it. So the next day, he decides he's gonna go look up information on that robber. And as he enters in the information, 2 links pop up, one with an image. The image shows the man with other thugs. And through a link of all of the thugs, Peter realizes that the man at the top of the list is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. After work, Peter spies on the 3 thugs that he saw in the photo with Uncle Ben's killer. As the men head into their hideout, Peter kicks the men inside, telling everyone that he's here to
Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Like a streak of light, just in time. You know, if you understand that reference, you'll understand why I'm singing it here.
sign up for the wet t-shirt contest. Dan goes to grab his gun, but
I just realized, why does this guy have a whip this close to a black guy? I bet not ever see this guy accidentally hit this guy with a whip, bro.
Peter whips his webs out, knocking the gun out of his hand. The bigger man, Ox, steps up, and Peter punches him with all he's got, and quickly realizes punching Ox may not have been the best idea. He swings, knocking Peter into Dan, and then Montana cracks her whip, wrapping it around Peter's neck. She tells everyone that this is just a Fed trick.
I swear if that whip hits him, I'm whipping the writer's ass.
They need to throw this kid out and bolt the doors. Ox tells him that he's just being paranoid, but as Ox tries to swing again, Peter jumps up onto the wall. As he lands, he pulls on Montana's whip, and he throws him into Ox. He then webs up the 2 of them and throws Dan into the group. Peter looks at them and tells them, I know you guys work for the Kingpin. I would like to know where he's at. So they go ahead and spill the beans, and they tell him that Kingpin is holding a fun office on Friday. A real MVP VIP.
Who is this, Johnny Tight Lips? Or Johnny, Loose Lips?
Sort of thing. Real legit. Peter then realizes that they're kind of spilling the beans on a lot of information and asks, why are you telling me all this? The man says he works for Kingpin. Doesn't mean he has to like him. Seconds later, the front door is kicked in by 2 FBI agents bursting in, telling everyone to freeze. The woman stops for a moment and then says, it's him! It's Spider-Man! Peter tells them that it's really not what it looks like, and the agents tell him to put his hands in the air. Thinking quickly, he tells them, look at the time! I've really got to get going, and he jumps over the agents and swings away. The next day, Peter stops by the newsstand to read the headline, Spider-Man, Mob Menace. Later that night, as Peter heads over to the big VIP MVP thing.
This guy is just a brick wall. This guy is more a piece of furniture than he is a man. Look how big his hand is compared to this other dude. Bro's hand is the size of this guy's entire torso. Bro is carrying a wine glass that's actually just a regular ass glass, but looks like a wine glass compared to this guy. That's actually crazy. You were too damn big! Whoa.
Kingpin's doing. He gets to the tower and he watches as Kingpin gives his speech. Peter tells himself that he's going to find a way to expose Kingpin, all of the drugs, thievery, and murder. All he does is write a check and suddenly he's a good guy? Ironic, really. People think that Kingpin is a good guy and Spider-Man is the bad guy. As Peter climbs up through the window, he begins to search through Kingpin's office, and then he suddenly notices a lens in the distance. Peter tells him that he's starting to get a funny feeling when things start to feel like they're about to go wrong again, almost like a spider sense kind of thing. And suddenly Kingpin appears, reaching out, grabbing him. He asks if there's anything that he can do for him, and Peter spins around punching him, realizing that he's got to stop punching giant guys. Kingpin grabs a hold of his arm, asking who sent him, and through the pain of having his arm crushed, Peter tells him, Carson Daly! He kicks himself away, and Kingpin tells Electro to take care of this. He needs to get back down to his guests. Out of the group of men behind Peter, one man's eyes begin to glow, and electricity begins to spark around him. Electro fires the bolt of electricity, zapping.
I'm not gonna lie. Which one is more of a zesty pose? This pose or this pose, bro? Why bro gotta turn around like that? Let me know in the comments which one is more zesty.
Away at Peter. Kingpin tells Electro that this is his office, you know. And after a few more blasts, Electro finally hits him. He tells him that he's sorry about the room, but this really isn't an exact science or anything. And Kingpin tells him to just take off the mask. One of the men pulls Peter's mask off to...
Damn. Like, bro couldn't even put up that good of a fight for them to just be like, secret identity gone.
See? That he's a kid. He then tells the men to call for Mr. Big. His presence is required. And Electro asks, what are we gonna do about the kid? Toss him out the same way that he came in. And also find this Carson Daly person and destroy him. As Peter's body is thrown out the window, he slowly begins to wake up and tries to catch himself along the building. But as he does, he grabs onto a window by the ballroom and everyone watches as he slides down and falls off. A little while later, Peter heads home telling himself that he messed up bad. He got electrocuted, had his web shooters crushed, and his mask ripped off, and and then thrown out a skyscraper. Maybe he shouldn't have gone down there. The next day at Kingpin's tower, Kingpin shows Mr. Big Peter's mask, telling him, I had a visitor last night. Come into the office. He came into the office and started a fight, almost ruining my dinner party. Mr. Big laughs, stating, he sounds like das Gavoots, Martha Stewart. The entire room goes silent, and Mr. Big says, it's starting to sound like you have elevated yourself above all of us here common thugs, Mr. Kingpin. Rumor has it that you can't even get your hands dirty anymore. And Kingpin decides to respond to that. Finally.
Is this supposed to be a do-rag? Or is this guy like Muslim or something? That's crazy.
Mr. Big takes a stand, and then he looks at Ox and Montana, telling them, it's time to pick a side. Ox and Montana grab a hold of Mr. Big's arms, telling him, you have to understand. Kingpin takes off Mr. Big's hat, and then slides Peter's mask onto him and begins to wrap his hands around his head. Kingpin's hands begin to come together, and his grip begins to get tighter, and Mr. Big begins to scream out in pain, until finally, he stops screaming. The next morning, Peter watches the news as reports of the body of Mr. Big floating down the river wearing the mask of Peter are being aired. He tells himself being demasked isn't the worst thing to happen to a superhero. This right here is the worst thing that can happen to a superhero. The next day in class, the teacher begins to review what type of man Richard Nixon was when he was president and why he had everything recorded. The class begins to shout out answers, and one of them says that he was paranoid, to which the teacher tells him that that is correct. The teacher goes on asking, why would a paranoid man record all of the questionable dialogue? And Peter remembers back to when he saw the security footage in Kingpin's office, and he says, because he thought he was untouchable. After class, Peter begins searching online for security systems and finds the company name rather quickly, so he has an idea. And he emails the company stating that he's interested in getting security for his business. And he would
Bro, we hit them with the Nigerian Prince email, man.
like information on some of the systems that they use for their larger businesses. After heading home for that day, he checks his computer to find the security company emailed him back and told him the exact model that all of the large companies use, as well as a link to the technical pages for how they work. After watching everything that they've given him, he realizes that they record everything on DVDs, and he needs to get those DVDs. Because not only will they have a video of him being demasked, but it also will allow him to find out what the Kingpin has been doing. Later that night, Peter sets out and sneaks into Kingpin's tower, and once he gets inside, he sneaks up on the security guard who's monitoring the security system, knocking him out. Meanwhile, back upstairs, Kingpin talks with Electro and his men regarding the fact that they need to find that Spider-Man kid. Downstairs, Peter is fighting off the second security guard, and the guard fires a few shots hitting the building's electrical panels. Suddenly, the whole building loses power. Now, with everyone knowing that someone is here, Peter runs over to the security server and rips the door off of the hinges. He cycles through a few discs and takes the ones with the date of him being there and a few of the extra ones. He then packs up and gets a funny feeling, and a bolt of electricity shoots by. He barely dodges the strike, and then a whip lashes out, wrapping around his neck. As Peter,
I got a question. Does Ox have powers or not? With what he's doing, it seems like he has superpowers. I'm not sure.
looks back, he sees Electro, and Electro tells him, "Don't worry, this will only hurt a lot." Peter manages.
Or is this supposed to be Black Eye Strong, so that's why he can do all what he does?
To break free from the whip and begins fighting everyone and dodging their attacks. Dan starts shooting, but Peter asks him, "How many times do I have to tell you? No guns!" And he webs up his hands again. Before jumping away, Ox grabs a hold of Peter's leg and begins slamming him back and forth into the computers. Peter lays on the ground. Ox grabs him by the neck and tells him, "We should go on and bring you to the Kingpin." But as everyone looks at Peter, he shouts, "Acting! Ta-da!" And he kicks Montana and Electro away. Electro fires the bolt, but Peter dodges out of the way of that one, and the bolt ends up hitting Ox. Montana, in response to that, cracks her whip as Electro is apologizing.
Hey, yo. The black guy goes down, and then Montana's instinct is to crack his whip.
And as the end of the whip is getting closer, Peter grabs it and pulls it to bring Montana to him and then kicks him back down. With Ox and Montana down, Electro begins firing away trying to hit Peter, so he jumps down, grabbing him by the wrist, telling him, "I'm kind of curious as to how you got your powers. Are you a mutant?" And Electro responds with, "Are you?" Peter tells him that he asked first, so Electro tells him he's not a mutant. "But why would you care anyway?" Peter responds with, "I'm a huge science geek, so I'm kind of sort of into this stuff. I will say this, after they take care of you, we're going to be going after your friends and your family. They're all going to be fried." And Peter tells him, "If that's the case, then you can't be mad about me doing this." He kicks a water pipe and throws Electro into the pouring water. The water electrocutes him, and soon he begins to fall over. Looking down at everyone, Peter hears Ox trying to wake up. So he jumps down on him and tells him that if he wants to do the right thing, marks that incredibly stupid butt over to the comp and confess what they did. And then he begins to run towards the exit, thinking to himself, he did it. He really did it. How cool is he? But before he can open the door, Kingpin's voice tells him, "There is no way that you're going to leave here alive." So
Bro really has no neck. He's just head, shoulders, knees, and toes, bro. Literally.
Peter stops and tells him, I had something prepared for the next time we ever met, so okay, here goes. You're so fat that when you cut yourself shaving, marshmallow fluff comes out. Kingpin stares at him, and Peter goes on. You're so fat that your high school yearbook photo was taken from a helicopter. Kingpin starts to grind his teeth. And Peter goes on to say another, but Kingpin begins yelling and charges after him. Peter jumps, telling him, hold on, I got one more. And just as the Kingpin reaches him, he dodges the rest of his attacks. For such an evil, arrogant guy, you think you can just walk all over everyone. Kingpin begins to punch away again, and as he does, Peter webs his arms to the wall, telling him that he really didn't come here for a fight. So he shouts, you're a dead man! And then Peter webs his face. As everything goes dark, Kingpin rips himself from the wall and tears away at the webbing on his face to find nothing. The next day at the Daily Bugle, writer Ben Urich sits at his desk watching a video of the murder of Mr. Big. He then reads a note left to him that enclosed all sorts of goodies on Kingpin. P.S. Not for the squeamish. Elsewhere, Kingpin begins to read the headline, American Kingpin of Crime Caught on Tape. Whereabouts unknown. His lawyer tells him not to worry, he'll get him out of this. But really, someone was murdered.
Bro really looked like Humpty Dumpty. Crazy ass head, bro.
And it was caught on tape. Kingpin looks at him and he walks away. During all of this, Peter Parker and Mary Jane have been having an interesting relationship. He wants to go out with her, she seems to like him, but she's also seeing a bunch of other people. It's kind of confusing, but it's typical high school drama. But the next day after all of those events happen, after school, Peter sits nervously with Mary Jane sitting on his bed and tells her, so yeah, there's something I wanted to tell you. She stares at him, telling him okay. And he tells her, really, you can't tell anyone, like ever. And she tells him okay. And Peter tells her, you gotta promise. So she says she promises. And after a few awkward moments of silence, he
Look! Oh my god, bro! 3 panels with the same damn face, bro. Come on. Damn.
tells her, I'm Spider-Man. She looks at him and asks, what did you say? Like the superhero Spider-Man? He tells her yes, and she bursts out laughing, so much so that she falls off the bed. She tells him to shut up. He's being such a goofball right now. And he says that he knew that he would have to do this, and he begins jumping from wall to wall. She watches and stares, and Peter asks if she's going to be okay, and then she begins to scream. Peter tells her to be quiet. Aunt May is home, so you gotta. But then May's voice shouts, what's going on up there? Better not be any hanky-panky. After finally controlling herself,
Hey, yo! Aunt May, what do you know about hanky panky? And why is a girl screaming out in horror remind you of hanky panky? Did Uncle Ben have you screaming like that? Crazy work.
Mary Jane asks, how did it happen? And Peter explains that it happened when he went to Harry's dad's work and the spider bit him. That's when she realizes that the spider almost bit her and she could
It's crazy how nobody could put 2 or 2 together, but whatever.
Could have been Spider-Man too. And then the next part of the conversation goes on to what is he gonna do because he's Spider-Man, and can she see the costume? But now that Mary Jane knows his origin and that he's Spider-Man, and that Kingpin has been revealed to be a really bad guy with ties to the individual that killed Uncle Ben, what's gonna happen next for the Spider-Man storyline? If you want to know,
Well, if you guys want to know, make sure you like, follow, and comment for more. Let's try to get this video to 10 likes, please. Actually, nah, let's make it 5 likes. Can we please get to 5 likes? Let's make that happen. But anyway, Spider Society, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.